Hi everyone. I wanted to do a quick video going over this Google Slides presentation before I post it. You guys can read it more thoroughly. But this presentation covers rhetorical situations, and we consider audience purpose and successful writing. I hope your grade contracts are coming along well. That WWA as well as WWA number 2 will be due this coming Sunday at 11:59 p.m. I hope you're feeling good about the workload, um, and I hope your other classes are going well. If this class is indicative of how you're succeeding in other classes, I'm sure you're all doing excellent. You're doing great on Discord. Keep it up, you guys. You're doing awesome. So, a rhetorical situation refers to the context in which communication takes place. It's made of these 5 different aspects. You have the writer or the speaker, the purpose, the audience, the message, and the context and culture it belongs to. This page looks at those a bit more in depth. The speaker is, of course, who is communicating. We have the audience or who the message is intended for, the purpose or why the message is being communicated, the message or the communication itself, the content, ideas, or argument being shared. And then we have the context or the greater circumstances surrounding the communication, which includes time, place, cultural background, and all the relevant events happening in the world that might impact the way the message is received. So, audience is a very, very important aspect of this. Beyond simply writing to generic readers or citizens of the world, we want to use specific rhetorical strategies depending on the needs of our audience. An audience itself is any collective intended recipient of the text, and whatever form or mode that text may take, it could be written, visual, oral. It's the person or group that the author wants to influence with the message. Before you can analyze how effectively an author engages an audience, you have to think about that audience's needs. You want to ask who the author is addressing, the background, interests, or values that come into play, the context, style, voice, the audience's perspective, and what the audience should do with the information. Is there a call to action, for example? Think back to the last paper you wrote. Did you have an audience in mind for the paper, or did you feel like you were just writing for the teacher? I want you guys to have an audience in mind for each paper you write. It isn't just me. You can get bogged down in what you think my expectations are for you. I would rather you focus on growing as writers. Don't be worried about what I expect of you. I want you guys engaged in this writing process and learning from it and learning about yourselves. And we work with a grade contract in this class, so it isn't about what I expect of you. I do want you to follow the guidelines and prompts that I give you, but you can take risks, and I want you to explore yourselves as writers. I don't want you to feel like you have to do exactly what I want you to do, but do try to stick to word count and things like that. Those are pretty important. A good example of expectations, though, for your audience, if you use Twitter or Instagram, you were probably aware of what your audience was going to feel about what you posted. You were probably hyper aware of how what you post might affect them. You were anticipating their reaction. You guys are already pretty familiar with this. You know how to anticipate the needs of your audience. You have an imagined audience where you might be asked to write to an audience of your own construction or one that has broadly defined values. That could be your literacy narrative or a research paper that you do in English 102. Consider your purpose and main idea. Who's going to benefit the most from receiving the information you're sharing, and what do you want them to take away from your work, and what do you want them to do with that info? And then there's the concept of discourse communities, groups of people who share common goals and interests and ways of communicating, often using specialized language or jargon to discuss specific topics. If you play video games, there is slang used in situations like that. Or if you play sports, there's language specific to those groups. And when you're speaking to those audiences that you're familiar with, you know what they need. You anticipate their needs. This is specifically very relevant in pretty much any paper you write. Um, you are tailoring what you write to fit your audience's needs. And in discourse communities, you're already familiar with those, so it's really cool. There's your organized intended audience, and that's a specific group of individuals who require more specific language and info based on your topic. Like if you're writing to a group of economists who require technical and professional dialogue, or maybe the local school board, and you need comprehensive research on policies and activities in the school district. You want to focus on those things and give your audience what they need. You also want to be aware of style and tone. Style are the more syntactical elements like sentence length and word choice and punctuation, and you want it to fit your purpose. Tone is how your audience should feel once they receive your message. Think of writing an informal letter to your grandmother versus a professional email to your boss. You are aware of what they need. And here's an example of that. It's a more concrete example. Like if you're writing to a professor in one of your classes, that is being super professional when you're writing, like, hello, professor, I'm having some trouble with understanding yesterday's rhetorical awareness assignment. Would you mind if we scheduled a time to meet? Versus, hey, that one assignment from last week is confusing. Help me with this, please. You want to take a more professional tone when communicating with some people. Specifically, you want to be concise in more professional situations, and you want the tone to match the intended audience and present a clear purpose, as opposed to being vague or unclear and using, well, unprofessional ways of communicating. So that is all for this one. Make sure you go through and you read through it if you're not really sure about any of the concepts. And if you have any questions, reach out to me on Discord or through email. I'm always here for it. And we can always meet if you need to. I will post an additional link to office hours sign up so you guys have easier access to it. But that's all for now. I hope you guys are having an excellent week, and I will hear from you all soon.